There's only one thing you should know. I think we're good. Hey, what's up? It is late on the 18th of July. July, they all lie. All right, so we have a little bit of reading tonight. It's going to be a story time. Reign of Reason. And I'll explain why I named it that in just a second. Oh, I was pressing the wrong button there. Well, first, just want me to allow me to say it's been a very long day. It was my daughter's birthday party day today. We did an aquatic center thing. It's something new. Tried. Usually do other events and other things. We always go all out. This one was fun. It was good. It was just extremely hot. So I had to pick up a bunch of stuff at Sam's Club. And it's Rebecca's account. I stopped getting an account there, but she called it in, did the thing. And yeah, I didn't wait very long. I mean, I waited like 10 minutes or whatever. I wasn't really ticking away the time or anything, but just in the time just standing outside, because my van is going to shit. There's the misfire or whatever the hell's going on is just getting it's getting to the point of being undrivable, and it's very, very stressful because there's nothing in reserve to be able to fix it with. Yeah, fucking nothing at the moment. So the 60 pounds of ice, like 3 20-pound bags, a bunch of pizzas, and a bunch of drinks. Just loading them into the coolers and putting them into the heater bags and stuff like that. Just doing regular stuff. It wasn't all that strenuous, like it wasn't lifting shit tons of weight at once or anything, but just packing the coolers outside and getting everything situated in the vehicle and arranging it the way it should be. So that nothing would, shake around. I was completely soaked, and it felt pretty good whenever I get AC, like when I'm not pressing the gas pedal, when the AC actually clicks back on. It felt pretty good. Then I just drove across town to pick up the cake, and it wasn't ready. And it was set to be, so I had to yell to them in the back room, thinking that's where they were because there was nobody up front at the bakery department. And I'm like, what the hell? Are they the same people that work the meat department that work the bakery? Like, what? Where's everybody? So I said, excuse me, hello? Yeah, we're here to pick up a cake. And I said it a few times. And then someone from not anywhere near behind the counter came and asked me if I need anything. And I said, yeah, I'm here to pick up a cake, birthday cake. And she brings out a tray of 12 cupcakes. I'm like, there's a cake too. She's like, no, there isn't. And she made this big argument about how it wasn't supposed to be picked up until 3. I'm like, it says 3 p.m. on the cupcakes too, and yet here they are. So where's the fucking cake? And when they finally handed it to me and opened it up, I had to wait over a half hour, and they were just not doing it. They knew that I was standing there waiting, and they still weren't doing it. They were power playing and working on it's pick up at 3. Well, first of all, it should have been picked. That was Rebecca's problem for not being at 2:00. If I'm going to be there at 1, it doesn't take 2 hours to fucking pack coolers. So why didn't you have everything ready so I could just go all the way around and bring the stuff to the event instead of having to wait there, smelly, soaked in the freaking sweat. My shirt was completely soaked. And I got to sit there and basically my pheromones had released in my back. It's like I deodorize, but sometimes I actually deodorize my back because when I get, too much, heavy sweating or, I'm working out too much, I get like pheromone back stench. So I had to live with knowing that that's coming off of me and stand there for fucking 35 minutes or more. They didn't have it done till a little bit after 3. And then I look at it and I'm like, could you not have found a smaller tip to write this so that it doesn't look like scribble on top of the cake? Like, is this what we were waiting for? I mean, the cake tasted fine. It was good. I had a little tiny piece of it. My daughter liked it. So that's all that matters, I guess. But if you're going to charge somebody $18 or whatever the hell it was, I think it was $18 for the cake, you should make it presentable. You shouldn't have to like squint to see what the fuck it says on there. And if she's like, well, that's because it's too small a space. I'm like, it's a 8-inch cake. Adjust accordingly, right? If it's too hard for you to write what was requested in this font size, put a tinier font size on it. They have little tiny squeezy things with gels. Like, this is all simple stuff that a bakery shouldn't have to be taught. So if you need to write finer so people can actually read what it says, don't make the big, bold, paintbrush strokes. Make the finer print so that it can be read. And when I was already arguing with her on the phone, Rebecca, I'm like, well, this should have been arranged a little bit differently. And she's like, blah, blah, blah. She's like, instead of just agreeing and saying, yeah, a female strategy will be adjusted in the future, she had to go on and, double down on her stupidity. So by that time, when I'm showing her the cake, I'm like, is this acceptable? She said, it looks beautiful. I'm like, yeah, okay. So it doesn't matter what the actual issue is. It doesn't matter if nobody has standards anymore. It doesn't matter any of that. What matters is contradicting what I say, contradicting reality to suit your view and support your position. Fuck reality. I'm used to that by now. So that was the day. And then I had to, deal with her and dude, she's everybody in our age group and younger is a whale. They're just there was a lot of body tissue in that little area. God damn. Anyway, so yeah, I should have got 15 pizzas instead of 6 or 5, whoever maybe it was. Anyhow, so here we are. Aloha Snack Bar. Hello, Edward Snowman. Yeah, it's a bit of a late one tonight, only because I passed out after the festivities today. My daughter went to spend the night with very good friends of ours we've had for a long time. The 2 kids, they came to the party and then they invited her over. So it was already preordained, pre-planned, and I was going to get on when I came back, but I was just too tired. Like, I didn't have the energy to go take a shower. I just passed out. I didn't even think I was tired until I passed out. I was like, I don't want to move. Whoops. There was something up here. But we're going to get into... I thought I had something else here I wanted to start with. Oh, was it on Twitter? Yeah, I think that's what it was. Or was it something I was going to... This is AI slot. Besides, we were told that we destroyed everything they said they had, so how are they even attacking us? Well, I wouldn't be so quick to call... I mean, I don't know what the hell this is. Maybe it is. But I wouldn't be so quick to call... Yeah, that's probably bullshit. That's definitely bullshit. I would assume. Portions of. But they're going to make it into something so that their retaliation over it is going to be somehow justifiable. At least to the stupid people. All right. So there was... I think I have to put it up in the... Well, you know what? I can do like this. There was a graphic that I was trying to show, but I can't remember where the hell it was. It was actually kind of important. Did it come from him? Yeah. Okay. So it was something that was shared by Crow House. So I'll just go off of his. But I got to pull up this thing right here. You should be able to see that now. Let's see. Yep. So this is Tamer Nahed, whatever that is. He says he wants to scream. I don't know what to write. I have no idea how words could ever describe what I'm feeling or the shock I'm in. How can the funeral of someone who was killed just 3 hours earlier be targeted? How does a funeral happen just 3 hours after somebody was killed? I guess in wartime things go quickly. How can a person be targeted even after death? Well, because people come to the funeral for the same reason why they shoot somebody on the street and then wait for the kids or the mom to come out to the children that they just shot and then kill them too. This is just Jew tactics. Aren't funerals sacred in every religion? Well, they're not religious. They're demonic. If you did it to them, they'd blow up your country and then hide behind America as they do. It's that type of tactic where you start the fight, you push the bigger kid, or you push anybody around, or you give them a cheap shot, and then you hide behind your big friend and your bodyguard. It's what they do on these IRL streams too. They'll Jack Doherty. He'll slap somebody in the back of the head or knock their hat off or shoulder bump them, and then when somebody actually responds in kind, as a man should who's being disrespected and assaulted, he has his two groids push them around and abuse them. And somehow that's okay because of their status and their detail as being a bodyguard. Like, how does that make them justifiable? Like, you have bouncers that walk around with you so they can go around assaulting people all the time. I don't see how that's how does that not make them legally responsible for their actions? Oh, I have a status. I have a card that says I'm security guard or whatever. Detail. Bodyguard for this douchebag. So therefore I get to push people around and that's okay. But if you push me, it's assault. Push me, we sue you for whatever you've got in your pockets. But yeah, whatever. It's a very bitchy move to go around and start fights and then hide behind something that other people would fear. So they know enough now that they're going to have to be abused by you when you come around. The tiny chihuahua is going to be able to bite their ankles because the moment you do something back, the Doberman and the Great Dane and the pit bulls come after you. That's how Israel plays using America all the time. Except we use them as the proxy to get into conflicts that we're intending to get into anyway. And people think it's the opposite. Oh, it's Israel trying to bring us into war. No, it's all the same entity. If you think that that's because they're somehow instigating on their own and it's they're dragging us somewhere, it's really not. It's the same banking cult entity that rather than us show and have the bad optics of going around just abusing people for no reason, being so far away from them to where you can never justify that it was self-defense. Well, that's why Israel's where Israel is. That's why it's located where it is. So that it can go around abusing people and say that they're attacking them because they're the consummate victim. They're the eternal victim. No matter how many times they're abusing and murdering people and blowing up their kids, they're the victim. They're the ones who should be saved and rescued and stood up for. So this is just more of the same bullshit. It's not a religion. It's a cult. How can saying goodbye to the dead turn into another massacre? Because it's an easy target and it's something that other people wouldn't do because of nobility, honor, and integrity and all these things that would make them seek the higher ground in things and respect. They don't have any of those hang-ups of morality to have to make them hesitate or slow down. They just see opportunity and they take it. That's why they advance in merchant class bullshit. That's why that and the unending flow of artificial funding from their printing press generators of money in their banking cult, they achieve in business because they're cutthroats. Because they don't have morality, they don't have ethics. There aren't things that they know are off limits. If they do something and they'll deliberately set up a situation, even so much as a peace talk, is always fraudulent. You're walking into a death trap. You're walking into a targeted area because they're going to kill you rather than negotiate. America was involved in that multiple times, but we can at least look at the Qatar one. Yeah, peace talks. Uh-huh. Everything is a setup, and if the moment you start to treat them with respect, the very thing that they tell you that you should treat them as, they betray your trust and do something malicious and murderous in response. This is the very definition of a sociopathic demonic entity. I know we've been talking about that Deir Yassin, but there's another example. Having, a moral and honorable, noble intent to not want to show aggression. So you say as a Palestinian, you say, no, Arab militias, we're good. We don't want to spook them and give them the wrong impression. These Israelis want to have peace with us, and we've made an agreement with them. And the moment they know that they're not being protected, the Israelis massacre them and then treat them like shit. And it's all because they trusted them. They're being punished for trusting them. What they're being punished for is believing that they're people of their word and that they're normal human beings just like everybody else, who understand that if you can't be trusted ever and your word is meaningless, that there's no place to go from there and you can never be trusted in the future. Therefore, there's never any way of living and coexisting with something like that, because they will show you time and time again that they cannot be trusted. Therefore, you shouldn't. Just because your desire for peace shouldn't blind you from the nature of this entity. And that is the majority of what we need to learn here, is that they will never be able to be trusted. In whatever scenario they present for us to perceive, and this is not just with them, this is with everything that they control. There's the perception that we have because of how they present it to the world. In America and in every other instance in anything that's on the news or any of their person dealings, government or country to country dealings, there's what they present and then there's what they do. They were in peace talks with Iran before the war started, and before they used America to bomb, so they said, the heads of state and get all those generals, and then they went off and killed their children and everything else. There was another strike during that time where families were also targeted. People forgot about that one because then they went and targeted schools deliberately and directly. Oh, that was a mistake. Bullshit. This is how they operate. They want you to suffer, so they go after your children. If they have a problem with you, they go after your family. They wouldn't even. They would prefer their intel. The thing that they're going to use will be to know when you're not near your family to protect them, or so that you're not near your family when they're blown up, so that you have to live with knowing that. This is how they operate. This is the nature of the creature that controls our country and who has been at the levers of control in what we call a government here for over 100 years. it should be pretty evident as to the validity of my statements when you just look at how much we've lost, how far we've fallen, how fucked up and inverted this place that's supposed to be about freedom and the American dream has turned into. It's a surveillance state because we're the prisoners. Prisoners that are on death row and marked for execution in the most horrific ways possible. So we have something to look forward to, I suppose, in the next few months. So he says, I couldn't bear looking at it, the photo. 10 people were walking in the funeral of their friend and relative, and minutes later, they too were among the dead. I can't comprehend what I saw, and I can't find any words to explain it. What is happening in Gaza has become beyond human comprehension, but this is a testament, yes, 80 years of evidence and instances to look and reflect upon. But this is the entity. Just because it's related to Israel doesn't mean that's not the Judaic cult itself. And wherever they are and wherever they have an influence, they're doing similar things and behaving in the same disreputable way that they cannot be lived with because they cannot be trusted for their word. Their word is meaningless. If you agree to something with them, they see that as your weakness for trusting them. How do you work with that? What did the Soviets do to the Poles? What did Stalin do to the Poles? For an example, executed 10,000 of them, shooting them in the head, coming up behind them after Germany finally had enough. You would think that'd be kind of strange, right? If war was started because, Hitler was trying to protect the remaining Germanic people from the slaughter by the Jews in Poland, who were being brutal to the Germanic people who were stuck behind an imaginary line because things were redrawn after the Versailles Treaty. If Poland was such a force to be protected, why did the so-called other ally, Stalin, come from the back end and use the crazy confusion to kill the same people? Kind of weird, right? Kind of Jewish. Regardless if Stalin was himself or not, I don't really care about that aspect. Working for or working as or being one is all the same thing. So it says, what is happening in Gaza has become beyond human comprehension. These are scenes I don't think anyone anywhere in the world could ever imagine witnessing, yet they have become part of our daily lives. Yeah, but that's not something that's new. It's something that you're witnessing in your lifetime, but it's not anything new with these people. This has been a 5,000-year track record of the same thing. And no, they haven't always been Jews. That's only about 2,000 years old of the 5,000 that were aware of this cult. And no, it's not an ethnicity based on the simple fact that nothing pops up out of nowhere. We didn't all of a sudden one day blink our eyes and be like, wow, there's Koreans now. Like, an ethnicity just came out of nowhere. Oh, look. Whoa, what's that? There's, you know what I mean? That doesn't happen. So it's especially something that is based on the negation of something else. It's just another name for the same, a cult to utilize and put on a different mask and confuse and deceive what they actually are, which is this cult of child killers, this cult of human sacrifice. I've been in a state of shock for the past 3 hours, unable to even write a single sentence. I'm exhausted from writing. I'm exhausted from posting. I'm exhausted from screaming into the void every single day with nothing changing. I'm exhausted from living life where our only goal is to survive until tomorrow. Were we created just to spend every day trying to escape death? Well, no. But other people have to stand up and stop this demonic force because there is no living with it, because it'll be to your detriment. This is a death cult. It's a suicidal, eschatological extremism death cult. They're accelerationists. They made up a story, they made up its ending, and they're going to push for it. And everybody who believes in this bullshit religion that they've rewritten so many times over the centuries, over the millennials, to suit the social perceptions of that era, and nobody remembers the times before, and they do a clean sweep of the way things were written or how they're interpreted or how they're translated each and every time, so that as they alter things based on bullshit in the first place, but doesn't matter, whenever they want to adjust their story and adjust their plans of how they're going to carry it out, so that the faithful believe that it's some sort of deification, some sort of divine thing that's happening in what do you call it? Reinforcement of their belief system, so that they allow it to happen rather than fight against it. They're going to do it. They're going to make those adjustments, and they have been. So, yeah, watch out for Satan. No, it's watch out for the deceivers. Watch out for the merchant class, cutthroats and bandits, the murderers on the road, the rapists, the child killers, the cult of death, and pharmakia. And what breaks my heart even more is this: how has the world watched these scenes and then simply carried on as if nothing happened? Because they used the word Juker, Jews. And then everybody was paralyzed and didn't know and didn't dare respond back. How can so much death and so much suffering pass before the world's eyes without shaking its conscience? Well, there's two ways that happens. Either you say Jews have been doing it, so that most people just tune right off and bury their heads and go and find a distraction and then pour alcohol over the top of it and leave it to someone else to deal with. Or you do it to a bunch of Africans and then people don't care because they're covered in flies and skinny and emaciated, and they just don't want to deal with that either. Just like, yeah, whatever. That sounds like a them problem. But usually it's still the same entity causing the famine, destruction, or militarizing some sort of republic, liberation army to go murder a bunch of people in a desert because there's probably diamonds or oil in the soil. Let's see. Let's go to here. There you are. Hello. Ervat. GLR was right as well. What's that? They can't just have a chip on their shoulder. They need a chip in every neighborhood and around every corner, said Edward Snowman. The parasitic entity and their lies. Yes, the Jews and their lies. And their lies. Ervat. Okay. Oh, that guy. Yeah. What happened? All right. Oh, let's do this. Since you asked for it. It's been a while since we did this, so let's go ahead and do this. Just don't get mad. It's all good fun, kids. Let's see if it actually plays this time.
Jews have words for anyone who is not a Jew. Derogatory terms, meaning everyone else but us. So they want to harm as many goys as they possibly can. And look at their Talmud. Their Talmud says, kill them all. It's your religious duty to steal from them, to bring harm to them. Martin Luther, the man who created Protestant Reformation, back in 1543, wrote a book called The Jews and Their Lies. In this book, he outlined, don't go to Jewish doctors. Jewish doctors are here to poison us, Germans. This is what he was saying in 1543. The Jews and their lies, and their lies, and their lies. The Jews and their lies, and their lies, and their lies. The Jews and their lies, and their lies, and their lies. The Jews and their lies. What did Martin Luther know about these Jews back in 1543 that people seem to have forgotten now because the media is owned by Jews?
I want to ask you also about a very important issue of vaccine hesitancy. Folks who get most of their vaccines normally might be hesitant about these vaccines because they were developed so quickly. What do you tell those folks who might be saying, well, I'm going to wait a few months before I get this one?
I would tell them I wish that the situation was not so critical.
You have not yet had your shot. When do you plan to get it?
Sooner I can, I will.
The Jews and their lies, and their lies, and their lies. The Jews and their lies, and their lies, and their lies. The Jews and their lies, and their lies, and their lies. The Jews and their lies. Back to the show. Here's a message for all FBI, CIA investigators, or any district attorney or investigator or prosecutor. If you have one molecule of self-respect in your body, and if you have a normal survival instinct, and you care about the future of your children, and form teams of investigators to go after this son of a bitch and nail this motherfucker. Nail him! You know what to do. Never forget what these Jews did to us and get them. Get them. Get them. The Jews and their lies. And their lies.
Darn, it's over. Doing the Night at the Roxbury the whole time, like. Oh, man. My dog's losing his shit. All right, so we're gonna get into Toasty! What the fuck just happened? Hold on. Yeah, okay. Everything else just popped up instead of that. That was weird. Toasty! Toasty! I gotta get better at this. Toasty! There we go. Coordination. I need quick keys. That's what I need. Quick keys. All right, let's get back over to this. This blade capture, window capture, big it boppity boom. Then I should just be able to, well, wait a minute. Hold on. It's display capture, that is. Oh, that's weird. There we go. Rise of Man in the Gardens of Sumeria, a biography by Lawrence Austin Waddell. Now, unfortunately, because it's on display capture, I can't just go like this because it won't let me. I'm on a different screen, so I'd have to go like that. Normally, I could just be on the visible studio screen of the OBS. But now, because I transition, it's not a window capture. Fuck. Oh well. Nothing's perfect. The Rise of Man in the Gardens of Sumeria, a biography of Ellie Waddell by Christine Preston. Hey, look at that. See this little dude here? Dudette dude with the two serpents representing the cult. The serpent cult. And have you seen what they They call it the Gnostic thingy. Now let's call it the Gnostic thingy together. Yeah. I've aged a lot this year. Song brings back memories. I've aged a lot this year. And Irva said, Ellie Waddell, so there has to be a toasty in the video. Yes, sir. And let's see. Let's go to... And then we're just going to click that. And then, because this is a terrible, terrible word. Nobody ever called themselves that. But the point is, they've used this symbol and not realizing that they're using a symbol from the serpent cult. And what I'm just trying to do is find the little twisty-legged fucker. Let's see if we put... And negative. But there is a snake in that one. Let's see. Where is... Who's the other guy? I'm trying to think of the fucker's name. Oh. Well, Tiamat's supposed to be feminine. Hey, look at that. Dungeons and Dragons. I had a toy similar to that, but it only had 2 heads. I guess I have to go with it. I wasn't trying to do this, but I guess I have to do it. This fucking thing right here. Abraxas. What they say is Abraxas is a symbol, minus a chicken head, of this very similar thing that you're looking at here. Get there. So this is carried over. Maybe they've lost the meaning of it and they don't understand by the time that they reuse these things, but I highly doubt it. I think that's another indicator of the moon cult's influence in these other societies, so these other civilizations. And you're seeing your serpent cult representation. But every time they mix it and entwine it with something that's positive, because that's how they co-opt things. And then they just bastardize. This dude's a piece of shit, by the way. Worthless piece of shit. Recruited from jail. Total scumbag. And we are there. Okay. That's gonna be all right. So we've got the Aryan quest and career, a tour of the Himalayas, excavations in Padalperta, which is the place, the lost city that Waddell rediscovered, I guess. Quest for manuscripts in Lasha. We don't know enough. We have to go through all that. The Sumerian decipherment and Shinar, decoding the dragon and rise of man, the British Edda. Bam. The Phoenician, meaning not the Jewish Phoenician that came later, or the moon cult child killer Phoenicians that came later, because it's all under the same term, and this is the same thing that they do with Gnosticism. Nobody ever called themselves that. The Phoenicians, and besides somebody saying Phoenicae once in a while when referencing them, like very seldom. This is something that was applied as a name by so-called scholars and archaeologists long after these people lived. Long after. And then they just make a label and they cram a bunch of things into it and say that group is this label. And then nobody argues with them because they're the ones that are supposed to be sorting all this stuff out. They're supposed to be the philologists who would know. That gives them a great deal of power to shape and steer your history, which ultimately manipulates your future by affecting the present. Identification of the first Sumerian dynasty. That's why history is so important, because it happened already. Who cares how long ago? No, because those very things that people are going to reference as reasons, as excuses, as a justification for doing something in the future, as they're speaking of it and changing things in the present, it all has to do with who controls the future. Who controls the past controls the future. And who controls the future already has control of the past. Identification of the first Sumerian dynasty. Urnina, ruler of the gardens of Sumeria. Plural, gardens. And then this is archaeology of the Indus Valley. Waddell's letters. And we just scroll down a little bit, deciphering the seals. Findings about the second Eden, which was in the Indus Valley. We don't need to care about that. All of that. Preface. Make sure everybody can still see what I'm looking at. Cool. Maybe I'll make it a little bit bigger. Here's my head. Yeah, it's all right. At the turn of the 20th century, the media referred to Elie Waddell, 1854 to 1938. He didn't get a chance to see the end of the war. And he was already being censored prior to the results of the Second War. But that shit was in the bag. When you realize that it was two massive central banking units, which are basically one, but operating on two continents, and all of their resources, which are infinite because they just print the fucking shit and steal all of our... By the time 1913 came around, all of our gold was basically... All of our true wealth was forfeited over to their control. And what did they do with that? They quickly mustered up a Bolshevik revolution and started murdering Christian Russians with it. 60 million of them. With America's wealth. And that did two things. Not only did it serve their conquesting goals in Russia to weaken and destroy an amazing empire that was hip to what they were up to, but not hip enough. But it also weakened America, another strong, you could call it an empire, republic, and that was to their benefit as well. Whenever I think of demoralization, the first thing I look at is I'm thinking like morale, but it's morals, right? Like perversion and demoralization go hand in hand. I'm thinking like the morale will be weakened when there's nothing but bad news. The demoralization, but it's not. So that's another element that occurs. Not just the demoralization, meaning you're turning people into disgusting creatures like yourselves by constantly reinforcing that's the acceptable norm. And that it's okay to explore these wicked things because people who are impressionable, who don't have yet sound and solid positions on what's right and wrong and what's acceptable when you're trying to all live on the same piece of dirt together. Like what would be constructive for peaceable relations and what wouldn't be? What behaviors would incite retaliation and justly so? And what wouldn't? There's certain things that you wouldn't do simply because you wouldn't want them done, but also because of empathy. You know it's wrong. When somebody who is in control of your perception of reality starts to soften the edges of that, eroding it, blurring it, and then reinforcing the negative attributes and aspects of it, or glorifying and popularizing them in the media and in the movies, making it look cool, Dark Knight type of shit, the dark, the anti-hero type of stuff, or whatever it might be, gender things, exploration, liberation of your sexes. That's going to make people who are impressionable and not quite all together yet, or just dumb, let's be honest, maybe they don't have a very good roots in goodness in the first place, but maybe if there was a society of ridicule, accountability, and consequences for your actions that was firmly founded, with like a firm foundation, maybe they wouldn't dare to step over the line. But now that the very system itself is encouraging that behavior, now you're asking them to have some sort of spiritual, or out of worldly metaphysical attachment to goodness, so that they would still know right from wrong, even if everybody else has gone crazy. You're going to get a whole lot more people doing bad shit. And that's where the demoralization and the perversion comes from. But it's also constant negative energy, which is also destroying the morale, which makes people either lethargic, just add fluoride to make that even better, and SSRIs and everything else, and poisons your food, you get it, all the shit. And it also makes other people say, you know what, fuck it. And they get resentful to other people because life is shit now. They've been convinced life is shit. It's every man for himself. And they're just going to fill the role that's being constantly echoed throughout the airways, right? They're going to just continue. They're just going to ride that current. They're going to hop on that frequency and just do those things. And they're going to become more like the inverted ones, just like the inverted ones of this cult. They are like a cancer. They replicate, or they influence more of the same. They infect people with their mindset, and then slowly introduce aspects of the way that they run their cult and the rituals and the sacrifices and the things that they do, and the sexual perversions and the cutting off of things. They introduce that into the cultures, and it doesn't matter what you call things. They don't care what you call things, because at the core, you're still worshiping what demons that they have been worshiping or conjuring for all of this time, because you're venerating them in the same way, regardless of the name. They don't care what you call things, provided you're doing the same acts. So at the turn of the 20th century, the media referred to Elie Waddell as the first scholar to have penetrated the mysteries of Lamaism and an authority on Buddhism, which is Brahmayana, after he had a work published in 1895. His career in the East as a British Army officer culminated with a commission to acquire Tibetan manuscripts during the famous British expedition to Tibet, 1903-4, which contributed largely to his being put in the limelight, in addition to the publication of Lasha and its mysteries in 1905. Waddell was also a philologist and linguist. These are important, because if you are an archaeologist, or what they call the Egyptologist, the Syriologist, because God forbid you call this Jewology, crypto-Jewology, then it's important for you yourself to be able to translate from the source documents, the source material, the source clay tablets or wall carvings or whatever the case may be, for yourself, and not take someone else's translations for granted or on face value. Because if that's the case, you're always going to come up with similar results as to your picture of history, because some asshole whose biases or limitations or grift, or, because he may have been, most likely he's a scholarly fellow, which means he's probably in one of these societies where they control that information, and they're going to present to the world whatever the hell they come up with is going to reinforce their worldview. Hold on. Something slid underneath the printer. It's going to be controlled. So whatever they see, they're going to interpret it a certain way. They're going to omit certain things, or they're going to cram things into a square peg into a round hole because it certainly has to be this way because it's already been predetermined that it. No, this is Semitic. The dawn of time is we owe them everything. You know, that David guy and this other thing, and Nimrod was a bad guy, and because he wanted to not let people drown from a psychotic devil deity. Seems like a pretty reasonable effort, but whatever. What now? What do you want? Let's see. Ordered music item? The fuck do I care? Why are you sending me messages? I didn't order the goddamn music item. If it's on my card, I'll cut your face. Anyhow. Let's get back into it. So yeah, you need to be able to go to the source material yourself. And a lot of people haven't been, or they take an interpretation of interpretation. So now you're getting an interpretation of interpretation of interpretation of interpretation of interpretation till, oh my God. And that's the same thing that happens with biblical rewriting. Does anybody have the scrolls? Has anybody done the actual work? Oh, they can't, or they won't, because then they would just find out that, oh my God, you're right. The first one was in Greek, not Hebrew. Hebrew? That's what I thought. Hebrew? He studied Sanskrit and Sumerian. But in contrast with the frame he experienced in the early phase of his career in Tibetology, he gained no recognition as a Sumerologist, and his works in a new field on topics of the history of civilization and with an Aryan theme were received as controversial. Well, yeah, the world was being transformed into a big banking cult at the time of his work between World War I and World War II, when they've had finally captured America and used them to assert their dominance all across Europe and start to fuck with the Middle East. And destroy the one bastion of... Well, actually, you know what's funny? If they had ever been able to liberate the Russian people, if Germany was able to do that, Russia and Germany, as in the people, would have made an unstoppable alliance. They would have had to overcome the Bolsheviks, the Soviet Bolsheviks, but the people would have most certainly been very enthusiastic and motivated to not let that entity, that demonic presence, poison any more countries or people after what it had just done to them. And it would have been a beautiful thing. But we got in the way because we were already controlled. We already had the parasite in us. They wouldn't have even been in Russia if it wasn't for us already having the parasite in us. America is responsible for 60 million deaths in Russia. And all the atrocities, you want to blame it on Jews? Okay, that's acceptable answer. But they had already conquered us. Otherwise, they wouldn't have had the funding, the true wealth. They wouldn't have had the backing of America to constantly fix their stupidity when the Bolsheviks had done such an efficient job of murdering everybody that they almost starved to death themselves. Yes, lots of Russians starved to death, but they almost starved themselves to death. And they killed too many farmers. They fucked up too much shit. They they were retards from top to bottom. This whole idea of Jewish intellect is a fucking joke. They constantly have to be, they stomp their feet, whine and cry about how they're special. They're just little brats. Little devilish, murderous brats. Rapey, murderous brats. Poisoners and murderous brats. Let's just say they're pieces of shit. And when they fuck themselves up, they whine for aid. And they got it every single time. FDR was more than happy to give them all kinds of shit. But even before that, they had to be bailed out a bunch of times. The Rise of Man in the Gardens of Sumeria reconstructs Waddell's life and career and sheds light on the ideologies of those works, which appear to be little known today because they were sidelined or bypassed by the media, oy vey, and scholars, other oy vey, or Royal Society, right? Like, we're talking about the people then and now who have the time to sit around and think about and talk about this shit, and they get paid for it. So what does that mean? They have grants. They are controlled. They're going to say what they are told to say to keep the narrative going, or they don't get funded. Plain and simple. That's how science has been running since the early 1800s. That's how medicine has been running in studies since the early 1800s. I'm still so dehydrated. Among the sources available to reconstruct his life were reviews and articles in academic journals. Oh, good. So all polemics, basically. One of which was published with the purpose of opposing his claim of decipherment of seals excavated by John Marshall in the Indus Valley. Waddell contended he was able to read their inscriptions thanks to his knowledge of Sumerian. And they're like, wait a minute, but this is the Indus Valley. Wrong area, asshole. And he's like, no, asshole, really, because the Sumerians migrated there. That's why you aren't able to figure out what it says, because you're trying to decipher it in the wrong language. Jackass. He found the signs more cursive than cuneiform, but similar to those of inscriptions excavated by Flinders Petrie, what a cool name, at Abydos, and dated them to the period of rule of the Sumerian Sargon I. Sumerian Sargon I, not Judaified Akkadian Sargon. Bull fucking shit. Akkadian isn't even a thing. It's just a known category that these pieces of shit had manufactured to adopt and co-opt the contributions and the accomplishments of the royal Arias or the Gothic Aryan people, which you could also say Scythian in a sense, because yes, same group of people that all these other names come out of. He also claimed to have been able to decipher them with his knowledge of the Sumerian, whereas Egyptologists could not, right? Because again, wrong language. Waddell built for himself a unique perspective of ancient history and civilizations on the basis of his overall research and decipherments, including the view that Egyptian civilization started out as a Sumerian dependency. Right. They were linked. Egypt was kind of like Sumer's Israel, except they went a bunch of pieces of shit. So it was more like, I don't know, like Germany and some other place that they liberated, I guess. An example of the scripts he studied and that helped him to read the seals is provided in the illustrations. The title Rise of Man alludes to the effects of the creation of civilization as per Waddell's interpretation of mythological lore. It's not lore and it's not mythological, so 2 strikes on you, Christina. And the Elder Edda. Well, yeah, the way that they proposed the Edda to be translated was most certainly mythological and insane. The stories of which were compiled by Saemund the Learned on parchment leaves, Codex Regius. Waddell contended the language of the manuscript was mistaken as Scandinavian due to the similarity of Old Norse and Old English, and that it had been traced to a family that had settled in Iceland in 795 AD, but had come from the west of Scotland, hence this title, the British Edda. In the 1970s, the codex was returned to Iceland, as it was where it had been discovered, but it wasn't theirs. It was spirited away from the Christian psychopaths who were burning everything, just like the Romans did. Do you think they learn? If they were truly persecuted by the Romans, why would they go about the same history-destroying thing and call everything fucking pagan? Because they're fucking crypto Jews. That's why. Because the cult comes in many forms. And every time they give themselves a new name and a new paint job and a new haircut, everybody's like, so where'd they go? Well, Clark Kent put the glasses back on. Oh, where'd Superman go? Oh, there he is. Where'd Superman go? Oh, there he is. That's Christianity and Judaism. And Islam. In the beginning, tell me I'm wrong. Who were the founders of the churches? Who were the pushers of this bullshit? In the 1970s, the Codex was returned to Iceland, as it was where it had been discovered, and the scholars agreed it was not Scandinavian. According to Waddell, it wasn't Scandinavian in language, but these people were either Icelandic, Scandinavian, or Norse. Who wrote it? According to Waddell, manuscripts with Eddic poems that were recited at festivals were quite common in the British Isles up to the 6th century, but were destroyed by Christian missionaries by the 11th century. Furthermore, he identified a multitude of Cappadocian, Turkey, and Sumerian place names in the Codex Regius that revealed the lost origin of the tradition that the learned preserved, as well as a scenario sometime parallel to the accounts of Genesis. Yes, that's where they extracted this story from, and it's some of its first retellings is in the Imu Elish, which is like the Babylonian Genesis story. There was already a Noah type character in that too. The Decoded Edda discloses ancient Aryan makers of civilization, lords, Aesir, men of Asia, Guti, or ancient Goths. Taking possession of Thrace 5,000 years ago, then establishing headquarters called Himin, or Heaven, at Vidara in Bogiskoi in present-day Turkey. Cappadocia. Okay. Remember? Himin's on the mountain. Himin is in the heavens. It's where you see the clouds when they roll in low. That's heaven. It's in the sky because it's on the mountain. Where's hell? Eden. Eden sits in the little, what do you call it? Below sea level area between two rivers or some shit like that. It's like in a whatever, almost like a ravine. So, and there's caves that they do all their witchery and bullshit, and there's their pharmacy and black magic rituals. And if you remember any of the stories of all these earlier cult practices, the sacrifice needs to be made in a grove or under a cliff's edge, like hidden. This is all coming from the repetition of the traditions that came out of this time period where they were doing these sacrifices and these rituals there. Was it also to conceal? Well, yeah. But it was also a tradition that was carried on. And then they still threw the baby down the well, not the Jew, because the Jew is the one throwing the baby. And it's funny that a Jew is singing a song called Throw the Jew Down the Well. Because you know how they like to invert and twist and spin your head into circles till your head snaps off. Bogiskoi in present-day Turkey, the home of later Hittites. So hell, down below, heaven above. Not places in mystical magic land. Ooh, heaven is a place on earth. There you go. Not stuck in your head. You're gonna hate me now, huh? These newcomers then fight a great battle in Eden as mighty armies rally from as far as Armenia under the leadership of El or Elu to oust them out. El is a powerful matriarch, gifted with occult powers, deified during her own life, and the ruler of the indigenous old Chaldean world. The Chaldee Semites is actually a name for them, and they also call them the Edenites, who controls a dragon serpent cult and demands blood sacrifices, and demands poisoning people and torture and terrorism of anybody in their territories that they occupy, stealing their food, stealing their children, starving them out on purpose, using starvation as a tactic to assert their dominance over people. This is where all that comes from. As they do. What they say in the Talmud, they love to starve people. And every opportunity that they get, some sort of control, some sort of power, like they did in Israel, starving out people. Whenever you can see their presence in others, like the British Army, what they do to India around the same time as the war, starved a bunch of Indians. What they do in Russia when the Bolsheviks had a little bit of power, starved the Russian people, starved the Ukrainians and the Holodomor. There was more than one starvation. There was like 3. You could even say there was more, but they were under Lenin and under Stalin. And a lot of times they hoarded all the wheat and it rotted someplace while people were starving, because the point was to punish, to kill, to be sick fucks, because that's the masochism. No, is that the sadistic? Yeah. Masochism is when you like your own pain, right? The hidden meaning of the formula of Indo-European and Hittite serpent dragon slaying myths, scholars admit is still a mystery, is revealed. The slaying of a dragon in Indo-European poetics was symbolic of the eradication of the serpent dragon cult as a result of a great battle fought by Aryan Goths against the matriarchal ruler in Eden in about 3000 BC, and their victory. The reason for the formation of the myth is that the eradication of the matriarch's rule and of the serpent dragon cult represented liberation from evil. As an extremely important event for the ancient world, this battle and liberation from evil gave rise to the notion of a struggle of light and darkness in a primordial time in mythologies and religions. Waddell's interpretation also sheds light on the killing of Tiamat by Marduk. Duke. They got to take that word out of there. What do they still call people dukes. Tiamat was the same thing as Elu, the female, the matriarch of the cult, the sorceress of the serpent cult. Tiamat in the Babylonian tellings, when they retell her as when they, there's the echo of her memory becomes Tiamat, becomes Hecate, because she had El also had like the 3 fates, like little covenant witchers with her, and that ends up becoming re-represented as Hecate. You have Artemis attributes in Tiamat/El. She's Lilith. She's so many other things. She's she's Kali. She's also Kali. When our people moved to the Indus Valley, they reimagine her as Kali, but it's the same. It's the same influence from the same time period back here. It's a cautionary tale, and there's Kali. There's so many of them too. Trying to think of all of them. And that's probably good for now. It's good enough, right? You have Lilith, you have Hecate, you have Artemis, Cybele, maybe. There's a bunch of them. But it's all coming from the same root. The killing of Tiamat, splitting her, and the 2 rivers come out of her. She's actually that's where they dwelled, was in the land between 2 rivers. Tigris and Euphrates. Waddell's interpretation of this also sheds light on the killing of Tiamat by Marduk in the Mesopotamian tradition. It has implications for Genesis, as Tiamat is associated with the watery chaos before cosmic creation. Right? But Waddell shows us that it's chaos preceding the creation of civilization, and that the latter puts order into the ancient Near East. The legend of Saint Michael slaying the dragon Apollyon, as well as that of Saint Michael slaying the red dragon in the book of Revelation, would be more recent adaptations, also stemming from the mythologization of the same historical events. After annexing the new territories of Eden to their Cappadocian kingdom, the Aryan lords civilized indigenous people, including dwarves and Edenites. Do you understand why I have a huge issue with the way people behave on these shithole fucking sites? This is the truth. There's a nobility. There's a duty and a responsibility to hold yourself to a higher standard. If you really want to claim that you have anything to do with your own ancestry, you are the guardians. You are the role model for others. You're leaders, and you should act accordingly. And if you treat other people, or if that's how you're going to lead, if that's the example that you want to create, you have lost touch with your roots, and you're just as good as nullified as far as that's concerned. You've made yourself of no use, and you're only harming the true character and integrity of your people by behaving like a lowbrow, low intellect, belligerent, offensive piece of shit online. Before you even give anybody a chance to show you who they are as an individual. Because guess what? Life in reality is life in reality. Okay? You're going to interact and you're going to come across people who are not like you. And you have to be a big boy and a big girl and fucking deal with it. And if you think hiding behind your computer and shouting obscenities at people so that you can get donations is the height of your fucking existence, well, then it probably is the height of your existence, and it's a pretty pitiful one. Because all you're doing is LARPing. And everything that is representative of your people that you exploit for that, you're bringing down. You can't bring it down to your level, but you're giving the impression to others that that's what our people stand for. And it couldn't be further from the truth. You're playing right into the cults and their efforts to make people hate themselves, their ancestors, their history, and to hate the ethnic European people as being inherently racist just as much as they said. You're playing right into the stereotype, and you don't even give a shit because you got a $10 dono drop. You got a $50 dono drop. You got a $100 dono. Oh my God, Flood, you're a fucking man. Too bad you squeeze one off in your little hot pocket, your shame sock because you don't have a real life. But hey, not everybody can live next to Mexico. Anyway. After annexing the new territories of Eden to their Cappadocian kingdom, the Aryan lords civilized indigenous people. Did they kill them all? Did they call them all names on Omegle? No. Those who could be rehabilitated were, and they lived together. That's not saying that I'm pro Kalirgi. Fuck that. It should be reversed. Yes, absolutely. The fresher that they are here, the sooner they should go back to where they came from. And you know what? And they should be carried back there by the freaking cult of Oives, and they should have to walk them across the ocean so that they drowned as they're having on their shoulders. Yes, exactly. Drown the rats. Speaking of which, I've got a little theory about Connor Murphy, but we'll get into that on the other channel. Remember how that funny story, which is all, of course, allegory and metaphor, about casting the demons in that dude into the swine, into the pigs, and then the pigs go and they drown themselves? Well, when somebody is being tormented by something, maybe, and just maybe, sometimes it's deliberate, sometimes it's not, meaning they may have captured some sort of dark energy themselves, in themselves, because they need to try to remove it from the world, remove it from the situation that it's in, this Dybbuk or whatever. So what they end up doing is they take themselves out in order to relinquish or dissipate the evil force, the Dybbuk that was around. That could happen, or there could be, I don't know, somebody's messing with them in a sense, cursing them, or utilizing technology, voice of skull type of things, and making them go a little cuckoo dooku. And having people in their lives that would also spike their regular supplements because they may have had a history of using psychedelics, so people don't even question whether or not there was foul play. This Tony Huge guy does not seem very reputable. He's been around two people who, quote unquote, either overdosed or they're gonna claim had a psychotic episode because of drugs and then drowned. But what happened to the pigs? They ran into the water to drown. If this person was seriously, if Connor was seriously maybe, dealing with something and praying to God and got down on his knees, and they're all saying this is just because he's nuts, like they're diminishing the signs here of what something could have been. That could have been some sort of possession, or it could have been some sort of somebody may have messed with his actual medications because he was taking supplements, and then somebody could have slipped something in there, and he could have taken it not knowing what was happening, that it was going to do something to him, cause a psychotic episode, and then into the water he went. And I still am holding a little bit of doubt in my mind here, because there's a little bit of there's a few things that you pick up after looking at a bunch of different information and cross-examining it, like kind of laying it onto yourself and connecting it with itself, that kind of set up a storyline that is a potential possibility. Or if it wasn't, it should have been. All these people who pretended like they knew the Connor that the last 7 years had produced, they didn't know him. And they're still quoting and saying, oh, don't ever do psychedelics. They're all blaming this. They're definitely being like brought together for this to say some bullshit and cast a certain idea out to the people. Don't use psychedelics. Yeah, don't use psychedelics, because then you'll realize how full of shit this world is. And you'll have a little bit of a taste of gnosis and not be able to be fooled anymore by the lying liars who lie about everything and who have put you in an artificial bubble within the real world. Yeah, don't do those things. You're harder to manage when you're aware of the facade. Anyhow, we'll get into more of that some other time. So, civilize the indigenous people, including dwarves, which is just a name. They weren't actual dwarves like you see in the freaking movies. They were just shorter than the really tall Gothic Aryan people. And Edenites and Edenites who could be rehabilitated, not the ones who were playing around with the child murder and all that shit. And bring them the benefits of irrigation and agriculture. Now, when it comes to the Edenites, if they were all of the same serpent cult ilk, they should have all been done away with, and then maybe we wouldn't be here right now. But it is what it is. Being of the noble character and giving them the benefit of the doubt is kind of like what you do as a good human being. But again, these people can never be trusted. And they sprouted back up again, as we all know. This can't be understated. Our people brought the benefits of irrigation and agriculture. What has been attacked the most? The sun? Climate change, of course, which is bullshit. And of course, the farmer. The farmer produces the food. With food comes independence, liberation from dependence to a centralized form of government or cult. And our country has been brutal to farmers since the beginning of the 19th century. Or 20th, I guess I should say. Beginning of the 20th century. So the 1900s on. Much more brutal after the Federal Reserve popped up. Extremely brutal when FDR was president and the BLM was created and all this other shit. And absolutely horrible to them now. And whatever is produced now is more likely to be poisoned because as they squeeze out the small independent farmers, they replace them with corporate mass farming. You're talking about big ag, and it's all, what do you call it? Standardized with the same practices, with the same poisons in the food. So if they can't prevent all food production, which wasn't the goal, they want to just control it so that they can poison it. It's even better. It's like a bigger win. Like starvation, obviously people are going to have some issues with the government, but if they can just slowly poison you or starve you of nutrients, they can still feed you empty calories and bullshit. And yes, all these vegetables and fruit most certainly are supposed to have all these things in it. And they don't. Not at the levels they're supposed to have, but you keep taking them in, thinking that you're getting everything that you need. And that's fine for them because you're not. They have brutally attacked water and agriculture and irrigation and the sun more and more as the technology has advanced. With the poisons that they put on your food, this is all that cult expressing its hatred for us and what we have represented since we encountered them the very first time over 5,000 years ago. This innovation was so important that it gave rise to legends such as the one about the Garden of Eden in Genesis. And that happened after the conquest of this disgusting cult. That's when it became a true I almost said paradise, but if Anton Parks is right, paradise means a pen for animals. It was a confused recollection of a historical event. It was called a direct inversion, deliberate, because you're looking at, in the Old Testament, you're looking at it from the perspective of this cult of child killers and the way they perceive our people and our interactions with them. So the enemy is telling the story, and that's where you get the Old Testament from. At least the Genesis story, and then it bleeds into them inverting a bunch of historical legends, not historical heroes and historical events from the Alexandrian library that they were preserving of our Gothic Aryan people, and they would just semitize them and say, and then inverting their attributes, making them more, writing them to be more like them, and giving them all these horrible human traits. And then when we look back through history, like, oh, it's the human condition. No, it's their condition. We have never been like that, unless we've been coerced or influenced or have been given the impression that that's how you're supposed to be. That's not our nature. It's not the human nature. It's not the human condition. It's their condition when they are poisoning humans with their presence and their lack of morality and their perversions. That's when it's the human condition. Eden has been identified as the plane where Sumerian civilization was created. The idea of civilization and agriculture are encapsulated in the term garden in the title Rise of Man in the Gardens of Sumeria. The Aryans imposed laws and spread their sun cult. Laws, just ones, just laws, as in justice, as in fair, as in keeping the order. As in everyone mutually benefits when everybody follows this. It wasn't a seatbelt ticket. It wasn't a possession of marijuana or anything else ticket. Their knowledge caused a spiritual rise of man, the reign of reason. But in the context of this interpretation of the Edda, the effects of civilization were spiritual as well as material. As far as scholars are concerned, the Sumerians remained nameless and their origin a mystery, right? Because they refused to admit that it was the Aryas, that it was the noble, because people would be more attracted to the way that they carried themselves than they would a bunch of uninspired and uninspiring fucking characters from their bullshit cocksucking book, their grimoire of babbling bullshit. Waddell's history of the creation of civilization offers many clues for the elucidation of questions which have remained unsolved in archaeology. It has been suggested in academic circles that the origin of Genesis was an oral tradition that circulated in the ancient Near East for thousands of years before the stories were penned down. Exactly. With Waddell, it becomes clear that in a period of decline, the original sense of the rise of man was lost, and the golden age of civilization was remembered as a lost paradise. It was inverted by the moon cult, who wanted to erase it from history and reclaim that, because that was a big mark, a big failure on their scorecard. Waddell was a pioneer in Sumerology, so if you can't actually beat them in reality, you beat them by retelling the story as if you're the victor, or that you are the ones who were the creators and founders and establishers of all things. That's why Moses was like super Moses, and we talked about that in the past. It's all babbling bullshit by the lying liars who lie. Moses wasn't even a thing, ever. Never. With Waddell, it becomes clear that in a period of decline, I'm going to say that again, the original sense of the rise of man was lost, and the golden age of civilization was remembered as a lost paradise. Lost paradise. Why? It was a lost pen for animals. It's a lost paradise because it's the moon cult. It's the Saturn moon cult. It's the serpent wolf cult. Elu's remnants who are mourning the loss and blaming Eve, who was one of their Vestals, who left the cult and was baptized into Thor's sun religion. They blamed her for their downfall. They blame everybody but themselves for being demonic, sick pieces of shit. So the woman was the one who, the fall of man. They're talking about them, not you, not the people that beat them. But they convolute everything and they make everything into a big fucking joke and a big mess. The lost paradise was their control, and it was great high times for them as they were terrorizing the rest of fucking mankind. Then mom and dad showed up, or if you want to say, the cavalry. And I can't say cavalry without thinking of all the ways that they've ruined thinking of a military force of any kind as something, because it's not a positive thing when you get to realize that. But back then, yes, it's all about the intent of the people. They show up and they liberate in reality, true liberation, relief from terroristic attacks. There were people living in caves, man. They were living underground. They were living in like labyrinths of shit, or hiding in the woods and all this other stuff to stay away from these people who would steal everything from them, abuse them, potentially poison or murder them, and steal their children. They had to come out of hiding. One of the passages even in the book alludes to why so pale. It's like, I've been living in a goddamn, you've been living in a cave? Or he's living in a tunnel? Yeah, well, funny you should say that. Yeah, that's the only way they could survive until they were protected and liberated by our people. Waddell was a pioneer in Sumerology, as he asserted before Thorkild Jacobson that the antediluvian dynasties of the Eastern list were the result of duplication of material by the Eastern priest. His comparative studies permitted him to recover the fact that the dynasty Urnina founded was the very first dynasty of the Sumerians. So that's Thor, another name. Waddell's history of civilizations is truly unique and still unknown. Urnina is known under the names such as Sagaga and King Dar or Tur, as in Thor, Dardanos, right? Tur, and the titles Ukusi of Uku City in the Kish Chronicle. Urnina, who is referred to as Nanche in the Louvre Museum, was deified as Zak, which is the same as Zeus. Sak or Lord Saku Ugu. Hold on. Am I hearing my daughter? Oh no. Waddell contended that this king's achievements were told in the Elder Edda as Thor's. He was of the opinion that Zeus and Jehovah, gods of thunder like Thor, derived from Zak. Yes, and the deified forms of this king. And the Greeks and Israelites inherited legacies from older nations, i.e., the Egyptians and Babylonians. Right. But then you had little shithead moon cult pieces of crap in Greece who were in later ages, like post Alexander the Great, who were helping to terraform, co-opt, and rewrite their stories of their venerated kings, venerated heroes. God has a different... Gods were simply heroes of the past, but they were misinterpreted deliberately by people like this Abrahamic death cult trio, like the Christians who wanted to call everything pagan and polytheistic. There's nothing more pagan than their symbolic gestures of eating flesh and drinking blood, and any of their other sick shit, or any of the things that the Jews do. How can that not be pagan? They're Stone Age fuckers. Anyway, a seal discovered at Tello that Waddell deciphered revealed the fact that Urnina ruled over a second Eden situated in the Indus Valley, his first garden of agriculture being in Mesopotamia. He contended Urnina did not rule solely over a city-state, as scholars seem to believe. The existence of a second Eden was interpreted by Waddell as a colonization of the Indus Valley. This Eden would also have been a garden of Sumeria, because Sumeria was the HQ, if you will, after the conquest of Eden. Cappadocia was where Himen was. Karshemish is where Eden was. And they constantly were fighting with our ancestors. So finally they put down the cult. They tried to live among them. They tried to live without, but they kept on attacking Thor. They kept on attacking his family. They kept on going to Troy and busting up his seamstresses, like he was whatever the hell they call them, threaders or whatever, who were making their clothing. Let's see. Hence the title "Rise of Man in the Gardens" with an S of Sumeria, in which gardens is in the plural, as the rise of man is not just in relation to the garden situated in Mesopotamia, but also the one in the Indus Valley. Further evidence of this empire is on the basis of Waddell's discovery that Manastusu, son of the Sumerian Sargon I, was Menes. Inscriptions excavated by Flinders Petrie at Abydos that Egyptologists could not decipher were Sumerian and of Sargon's time. It was Waddell's opinion that Menes' first Egyptian dynasty started out as a Sumerian dependency. He was known to the Minoans as King Minos. Manus Tusu was King Minos. Following the excavation of seals in the Indus Valley by the archaeologist John Marshall, Waddell wrote Indo-Sumerian Seals Deciphered, 1925, to announce that he had been able to read their inscriptions with his knowledge of Sumerian, but his claim was opposed on the evidence of articles in the academic journals through the starting point of his theories, though the starting point of his theories was supported by prevalent views in archaeology in the 1920s. So basically, they found something that didn't line up with the bullshit that they had already forecasted and project and assumed. So when they've already have their picture of history, because it's a picture of history that the people who pay them and fund their research want them to support, when things are pulled out of the dirt and they don't fit the narrative, they conform them to fit, and then the actual true meaning is lost. So when somebody else comes along and spoils that party and says, "No, my interpretation is totally different from yours," and you're not even going about it in the proper language, they attack that person rather than check the validity of the statement. And that's just an example of how they attack every bit of information that they don't like, or people online too do the same stupid shit. Don't attack address the information or attack the person who's, that's nobody wants the truth. They just want their truth to be reinforced. Furthermore, in the 1940s, when Sir Mortimer Wheeler, what if he's any relation to Ken, was in charge of the Archaeological Survey of India, his conclusions about the indigenous origin of the Indus Valley civilization made Waddell's decipherment appear impossible. Attention has been drawn to the fact that theories prevalent in the 1920s were a good starting point for Waddell's claim, and that the Sumerians' hypothesis in respect of the identification of the underlying language of the Indus script remains a possibility. So what are they trying to say here? That doesn't. No, that I don't agree with that. It seems like there was convenient evidence after in the 40s, post-war, like they had to bug up their ass so badly about Waddell's work, showing that nothing about history was Semitic, and that there was a single origin of all civilizations that came from our Aryan ancestors. That bothered them a lot. So they then magically found something that said, "Oh, look, our survey in India concludes that it certainly wasn't that." There's so much evidence to the way they're described, everything that they talk about in the Indus Valley. They even the lion-faced people. Those were the what the hell were they? Oh my god! I'm gonna the Frisian the not the Frisians. The what am I trying to think of? God damn it! It's too late. Why can't I think of the name? I don't know. There's something blocking my brain right now, and it's probably something to do with lack of water in my body, but Phrygians. Okay, Phrygians were the lion-faced people because of the way they wore their facial hair. But because people look at things just like the serpent and they start making drawings and stuff like that, like, oh my god, this is what it was. There was all these anthropomorphic things back then. It's like, no, you're not really understanding what the way that they spoke, because you don't know the colloquial metaphors or the figures of speech, and maybe it wasn't even considered that back then because they were just ways of describing things. They didn't say it's like a. It's sort of it. It reminds me of. No, they just said the lion-faced people. They just said the serpent cult. Oh, it's a bunch of people that are serpents. No, it's not. And so it goes. All right. Anyway. One of the reasons for the literary oblivion of those of Waddell's works on the history of civilization with an Aryan theme is suggested in the introduction to be in relation to the fact that he did not give up the quest for the Aryans in terms of racial origins when it was abandoned in the 1870s. And his quest was very influential in his choice of career. Furthermore, the term Aryan or Arya, royal Aryas, which stands for, no, it doesn't stand for Indo-European. That's a fucking, this person's retarded too. Indo-European is what they replace Aryan with. The Aryas, it's where you get aristocrat from, motherfucker. They were the noble. They were the bred with proper manners and duty and function to be leaders. They were the noble Aryas. They were Gothic, but the Aryans were the higher class of the Goths. And was discarded, became associated with the rise of Nazis. And see, this is where she shits the bed. Especially in the post-Second World War period. The works that are now little known may also have been sidelined due to having been erroneously associated with anti-Semitic theories due to Waddell's use of the term Aryan. Right, just even using the truth of the past makes it anti-Semitic. Isn't that something? What you got, sucker? Someone's throwing shit at me. Let's see. Oh, Farrah replied back. My daughter just replied back. Cool. Hold on. I gotta give her a little smiley face back or something. I gotta say goodnight. She's at her friend's house. Yeah. Good night. Sweet. So this is a reality, obviously, that they weren't going to explore this because the world was captured by the Jews. This is what they're saying. Oh, we don't want to be sensitive. No, you don't understand. It's because they have captured America through their deceptive practice of banking cult nonsense and their infiltration of governmental bodies through their brotherhoods and fraternal orders. So it's in the bag. America's might and their force and their wealth are now going to be dissipated, destroyed, and fucking siphoned out by this cultish entity. So you better not say anything about the true history of your people being the creators of all things, because that will not be popular with the new regime of Jewish the child killing Jews. So all things that were discussed prior to the World War II are no longer to be discussed. Anti-Semitic is just a way to scare people into conforming to the behaviors that they want you to follow out of shame or public humiliation or loss of, your position in the world. The works that are now little known may also have been sidelined due to, okay, we already said that. Waddell's notion that the Sumerians were Aryan was supported by V.G. Child, the historian who is regarded as having put order in the history of the Indo-Europeans, just call them Aryans, and G. Cassina. Unfortunately, it was the latter's conclusion about the German people's homeland and racial superiority on the basis of archaeological finds that the Nazis chose for their propaganda. Who cares? They were National Socialists too, you stupid cunt. So Christina Preston has already left the building. Her shit is sunk. A background in archaeology with regard to the notion of the Aryans as diffusers of civilization and the Sumerians being non-Semitic in contradiction of the biblical view, because the Bible is written by them, you dumbass, has also been provided as it permits to understand that Waddell's apparent obsession. Do you see where this bitch is turning the corner here? with the Aryans was not unique in the context of contemporary discoveries and research, which just comes to prove my point, and this is what I was reading this for in the first place, is to remind everybody that this needs to be, we deserve, our history deserves to not be put through the black pill sprinkling in the poison write up. Especially, this is the only one. This is the only attempt that I've seen of anyone trying to make some sort of biography of Waddell. And right in the fucking introduction, she goes off the rails talking about Nazis instead of National Socialists and saying that some random asshole's survey who is being funded by cocksucking demons, literal cocksucking demons. That's what they do with the baby penises. I'm not just making up insults here. Cocksucking demons is somehow refuting what is apparent and evident when you understand philological, true interpretations of all the shit that they find to support it. So there needs to be a better write-up for this. There needs to be a better legacy allowed to be, like a restoration of what Waddell attempted to show was the true history of mankind. And with a little background of his, on him, plus the British Edda and some of the makers of civilization and race and history, that needs to be put into its own book. And that's what I'm going to be attempting to do. That's what I'm going to be attempting to do. I'm not sure how long it's going to take. Probably a little bit. It's going to take a little bit. But that's where we're at right now. Let me go ahead and see what we got for time. Da-da-da-da. What happened to Ervat? Did you delete your own statement? 2026 says, okay, impressions I see as bad. Pirates good, which is good. Monsters good. Villains good. Minions good. Procuring servants good. Yeah. Ervat says, now you're getting the introverted way. Ervat says, don't forget their silliness of the matriarchy. You know, Jay, and then Ervat says, Jays are shit idiots. And then Edward Snowman says, where did the Bolsheviks go? Never mind that. Where did the hideous American radical left come from? And it says, And then Ervat says, Imperial Russia and National Socialist Germany. Now that would have been a powerful duo. Yes. And then when someone says, hey, Dan, did they have hanging gardens? Those might be helpful under siege. I'm not sure if there was anything Sumerian. I know that's what they claim Babylon was about, but again, who's telling the story? And I think what there's a very good. You may have brought up something right there too, because they're always so threatened by anybody else's abilities and capabilities because they spend their time robbing people. This is literally where they came from. We can get into the New History of the Jews by Eustace Mullins, where they throughout history were called the Habaru. That's where Hebrew comes from. Habaru Sagaz. There's nothing wonderful about those terms. It means that they're cutthroats and bandits, merchants and thieves on the road, and rapists. Basically, pirates before they started making it to water. They were pirates. And being that they're so damn envious, as they had demonstrated by writing a whole history that wasn't true at all when they were taught to read and write for the first fucking time in Greek, they could very well have written about something that was what they made Eden out of after their conquest of that disgusting child-killing serpent cult. And maybe they use that as their frame of reference for describing the Hanging Gardens of Babylon, because no one else could be there to verify that that was a thing. There was no photographs, obviously, and unless you could point out where people spent the time scratching into some clay tablet, describing about, hey, look, I'm sitting here outside of the courtyard and these hanging gardens, and they're contemporaries of the time. Like, otherwise, merchant means sea speak. Yeah, that's right. Man, I wonder if that sea speak is Yiddish. Oh man. Urva says they call us anti-Semites, but never liars. Yeah, I did delete it because I do not like typos. Oh, I got you. I just want to make sure no one's messing with you. There's only like what 5-10 people on it right now because it's so late. I'm probably gonna call it though. Let me see what time it is right now. You know what time it is? We got 2 hours in, right? I mean, we can do more tomorrow. That way, I can still maybe get on the elliptical before the night's over. Before the night is over. I got another one stuck in your head. I don't know why that one came up in my brain. Because you know why? Because sometimes you're not in control of what you're being forced to listen to because it just pops on the TV. It pops on the radio. Get up, give it up, don't forget that daddy. Oh shit! 30-year-old memory. What? What do you want? Your episode is blocked in certain locations, so explore your options to resolve this issue in female narcissism and entitlement destroying society. Spotify, go fuck yourself. I guess they don't like. There's no music in there, so they're just basing it on content. That's what they can do. Go fuck themselves. I'm not changing anything. So even when they're not monetizing me, they're still talking shit. Spotify's a piece of shit to be working on, work as a platform. Although that's where most people listen to shit. So that's the problem. So it's like the YouTube problem, right? They're the biggest pieces of shit to be able to say or do anything. But it's where everybody flocks to because it's what they've been trained. Or it's like you might as well put Spotify. You might as well pre-install Spotify on people's phones the amount they use it. Should just go to Spreaker where I never get fucked with, but they don't. And they've already blocked my first channel with how many now? 786 episodes. I've been blocked off of Spotify for over 2 years. And my ad rev went from neat to nothing in that time. Created 5 years ago. So that means I was doing other videos for about 2 years prior to that. A little bit longer. All right. We're probably going to call it. Let's see. I had up here. I wanted to read a little bit of this. Primary perception. Every part of your body has its own consciousness or its own soul. This is coming from, I think this is Cleve. What's his name? Cleve Baxter. That's the same guy who wrote Primary Perception. Thank you very much, Edward. You are the man. And you know what? Thanks for reminding me too, because I didn't do this yet. I put it up here. So it says, Rise Man in the Garden of Sumeria and Hidden History of the Human Race by Cremo. I was thinking about going into that book a little bit, but maybe I will very briefly. So I'll copy this. And anybody else wants to make this broadcast, help this broadcast continue. There you go. And then let's see if I can put over on Kick too. Because fuck YouTube. They're just going to tell me that I can't link anything. No, I don't want to watch Groids every time I come on here. Jesus Christ. Groids every time I come on here. Fuck. Paste. Hola. Oh, I'm going to have to change the title here. I hate this shit that doesn't make you know. I set it all up here. It's supposed to send that information everywhere else, but it doesn't do it. Because those other platforms are pathetically weak and gay, so they don't have an interface. And then Patreon shitified itself too, because it used to have an interface, now it doesn't. So I'm looking for the hidden history of the human race. Oh yeah, I did have a couple jokes here, so let me put this back up because it's kind of fun. Display capturola. There we go. Oop. So look at even way back then. Nigga stole my food. Get back here, you son of a bitch. I'll raise hell. Yeah. So this is Michael. This is Richard Thompson, but Michael Cremo. There was a couple things that I was going to bring up, but we can do that some other time. Hidden history of the human race is like a follow-up to Forbidden Archaeology. Yeah. So yeah, there was no. Hey, look, we'd all just flopped out of the sky. Now, what this does point to is that there probably was cataclysm reset type events where the majority of everybody was knocked out of commission. And yes, we did have all kinds of different things as far as we innovate very similar paths. But each and every time, we don't know who wins over the majority of the human population. Is it this demonic presence of the demiurge, or is it us? Because this time around, it doesn't seem like we're doing too hot. Maybe we should fix that. I think the way we have an eternal bliss here on this planet, or at least a way much better one, because the most wickedly evil, worthless, and violent dregs of society won't be enabled by the artificial spell of money in order to maximize their ability to wreak havoc on the peaceful, is if we get rid of the fucking demonic minions of the demiurge. Let's just do that. And if I'm wrong, we can use the DNA technology to resurrect them like fucking Jurassic Park, okay? But in the meantime, let's just give it a shot. Let's just give it a shot. 25, at the very least, a 25-year moratorium from them in our country. Although that would just mean that they would plot and murder us from shooting missiles at us. So that's why I'm saying you can't live among this demonic cult, especially when you've empowered it so far, so greatly at this point, to where they think that they've won, and they might have, because no one's doing shit about shit. And they're going around punching out everybody around the world, and then hiding behind America, who's going to fight their fights for them. Sucker punch, and then they hide behind their bodyguard. This is what's going on. Until eventually they're going to end up shooting their own bodyguard because they'll think that they don't need it anymore, and then the dark enlightenment will occur. The Dark Enlightenment is the corporatocracy monarchy. And it'll be very, very sodomite, Jewish, controlled by billion and trillionaires when we're all dead. But billions and trillions of dollars mean nothing, because the only thing that makes them better than us isn't their intellect. It's their fucking rank in the cult. The money is what gives them their ranking in the cult. Like, if they have a ranking because of their bloodline, their position that they've been assigned to play, the money is there for them to exercise and execute their mission. But the money is only useful in a society that they've built the perception of, to think that that's what wealth is. And that's the only way you can be of any value to anybody, is this money. Chase the money. How about chase the bullshit that creates money as a leveraging tool to make people who are of much higher value as human beings on a lower level of appreciation. Even though they are of higher value, they're undervalued by the society. Simply because of anybody can pick up paper. Does that make them better because they have a stack of paper in their hand now? Oh, wow, look at all that paper. Look at how, oh, you're so attractive. Oh my God, look at you. I bet you have really good ideas. It's a fucking spell. Having a suitcase full of green bullshit doesn't make you a better human being. Doesn't mean that your personality is a good one, that you can carry yourself in a social setting, that you have good fatherly instincts, that you're a good protector. You might not even be a good provider. That's just an assumption that you would use that in the proper way when you're holding your big briefcase of money open. It doesn't mean that anything that all it is paper that you're looking at. You're being mesmerized, and the spell is being cast on the paper, which is meaningless. Burning that bullshit shows more of a character than coveting it like a precious. The more I look at it, the more I understand what Heath Ledger's Joker did. And he was the crazy one, huh? We need to get off of this loser, prisoner, slave mentality where we're going to allow a bunch of degenerate, child-killing sodomites dictate to us our value as human beings based on some bullshit that they produce, that they manufacture, and that they can take away at any time they want. Why did we cuck to that? In this rigged-ass society, in this rigged-ass game, where you have to play nice with them if you want to have any of it. Well, then I don't want that. I don't want them. I don't want that part of my life. The system that we believe in needs to stop being believed in. We need to reacquire our value as human beings and understand that we can live in a world of scarcity and depravity, like being deprived, not depravity, but prave, you get it? Deprivation. There we go. Or we could live in a world of abundance. And the only difference is the ignoring and rejecting the premise of assholes when it comes to money. Good people never get to see their innovation, their dreams, their creative ideas come to life because some demonic piece of shit controls the purse strings. They suck more joy and more value out of human experience by holding and hoarding all that they have created and made us believe that we needed in order to be something. Enough is a fucking enough with that. Don't you agree? Don't you agree? Good. I'm glad you agree. So let's join a cult together. Be the cult of we'll call it Ralda. We'll make our sun veneration. It'd be like a life coaching thing where we all give each other advice. Right? No, there's no leader. It's just, you just show that you're a decent human being. Anyway, it's a round table. Kick has the groids, and so does fake satyrs. And then Ravas says, even the same interface and layout must be a crazy coincidence. That's what I would say forever. Right. And who and then I always look to Aiden Ross as the guy who probably set it both up, because he's the like the god of Twitch, and it's also like Twitch from what I gather. I've never been on Twitch, but I think Kick and Twitch are very similar too, which would make Crusaders Twitch and Kick all very similar. Let's take a look at Twitch. I've never been on Twitch. Maybe I should set it up as one of my destinations. Oh yeah, it's exactly the same. Look at. I may as well be on Fake Saders or crude sadists. Jesus Christ. Now let's look up Aiden Ross, and you're gonna throw up in your fucking mouth when you see how many followers he has. Like 17 million, 7 million. There you. That's a little bit better. Oy vey! Oh God! Duh. I'm just a kid named kid named Aiden, just trying to make it one day. Yeah, I'm in a cult. I'm in a Jewish cult, so it's already been preordained that I will be making it at the detriment of all of the rest of you people. Go fuck yourselves and die. That's what he should have said, because at least he would have been honest. But they don't play the honest game. Aiden Ross, cousin. Look at all this bullshit. Everybody is doing all this shit. This is how pathetic that people are. They can't just be their own thing. Let's see if I bet he's not on. Oh, maybe he is. His name is King Fulvic-Humic. Is that real? Yeah, it must be. He's actually on right now? No, it's offline. Pause! 61,000 followers out here. Ugh. You know what? Since I have places, I need another place. I'm gonna try Twitch out. Maybe for the Fitwit channel, I'll do a Twitch account. Fitwit and maybe like the like the bro shows when I do the gaming thing. I'll get like 2 Twitch accounts. Ryan Gable liked. Oh, I didn't even consider the alpha equals Nazi motif in this specific instance, but good catch. Nice. Thanks, Ryan Gable. And then says yeah. All right, I think we're good. But that is crazy, right? You're already developing a slight discipleship. Nice. All right, well, cool. That's hilarious that all 3 are the same. Right, and what's across the board, like the commonality here is Aiden Ross. And where did Paul go to duke it out with a groid that was half his size and still couldn't keep up because he needed to do some conditioning? Yeah, Twitch does do gaming. They do all kinds of stuff, but they do dopey, brainless content, and some of the fitness stuff does well there too. But like if you do something on Rumble that has to do with fitness, like actual bodybuilding, like you'll have a guy like Sam Sulik who has. Well, let's go take a look at Sam Sulik on YouTube, because this goes to show the difference between platforms. Sam Sulik has 4 million. I want 4.5 million subscribers, right? I guess he put a lot of time and effort into his profile, and Jesus Christ, I'm doing everything wrong. So this is Sam.
All right. There is a bit of a trend.
All right, so there's Sam. And now let's take a look over at Rumble. And we'll look at Sam Sulik, if he's even got it up still. $129 followers. I mean, 2 years ago, this is the last time he posted. He gave up. Because this is what Rumble does to the same type of content. Dude's got 4 million over here. Now, if he just started off on Rumble, he would have thought his life was a complete waste of time and a failure. It's so messed up. Like, there's certain platforms that have a certain like way about them, and certain things pick up, and some things don't. IRL streaming is what Kick's about. I'm not an IRL streamer. Well, in case you didn't know, I am a streamer, I guess. I used to just do presentations.
Great.
I like doing the pre-edited stuff. It's fun. Pre-edited stuff. I had to listen to grades again. You guys maybe listen to Grace. If you're over on Kick though, and you're not already doing the thing, we have a goal. But if in 4 more we hit the 100 mark, and then I'll start paying attention to them trying to tell me to set up my Stripe account. But in 150 would be the total goal there. Shouldn't be too hard when you have ass bags like Sneeko with 121,000 followers, Clavicular with 402,000 followers. Notice he had 61,000 on Twitch. Every platform's different. And it could also be that he buys followers, which I'm pretty sure is a true thing. But he also has had like 30,000 people following him. 82,000 for Brian Garcia. Aiden, 2.1 million. And he's more known for his kick shit right now. 7.8 thousand for this asshole. With Dean, I don't want to see you, Dean. How many's he got? Does it tell you? 323,000. All because what? Because he was slapped in the face by Larry Wheels. This guy's a fucking nobody. I don't want to see. It's all groids. Groid city. Everybody that's online right now is a groid because they don't have jobs. So, you know. Stamina and cardio takes a nosedive when you're on that vodka only hydration. Are you talking about Paul? Well, I mean, that happens from PEDs too, though, performance enhancing drugs. He has been on something because his bone structure in his face has grown since he was younger. That your head doesn't get bigger over time after you're in your 20s, unless you're taking some sort of HGH and IGF-1s and stuff like that. So he was on something. He looks great. Like he's built, he's strong. I'm sure he can kick, with some force and punch with some force. But you won't be punching or kicking with any force if you don't have any energy in your body to do that. And if you're getting gassed out in a minute and you have a 3-minute round or a 2.5-minute round or a 2-minute round, it's not going to be good. Because somebody who's little, who's just able to, get in and apply pressure to you is going to keep you neutralized, because you won't be able to do anything back. Your arms will become too heavy, and the gloves will be too heavy. 16 ounces will feel like 20 pounds. Then it'll feel like 40 pounds. Then it'll feel like 80 pounds by the time the round's over. You won't be able to hold their arms up to your face. That's why it's like so important to do all the cardio. Super important. And then, yes, the PEDs will often make people breathe heavy when they're just at rest. It's usually heart related and oxygen related, oxygenated blood related. But if you come off of them where you lower your doses, then and you do the cardio that's necessary and you build yourself up, you don't like if. I don't see how he would even have to really train except for the cardio reason itself with the boxing. Yeah, they are retarded. That's why it's funny when people say I'm on him. Like if I was on him, you would know the difference. You would know the difference. Trust me. You wanna see? I showed you Sam, right? That's PEDs, guys. That's PEDs. That's the difference. I mean, and then not everybody responds the same way, but they're always like, oh, they're hyper responder, this and that. And, oh, it's all genetic. No, it's all nutrients, actually. Whether or not you respond. If you're getting the proper amount of cholesterol, salt, all the things that your coaches are telling you to stay away from because they're fucking retards that don't know what hormones are made out of in the first place. And they tell you to stay away from all the things that would optimize your performance. And they tell you not to, and they don't tell you anything about the minerals that are being stripped out of your body from taking the PEDs because your body's in overdrive. Like all that stuff it's going to greatly diminish your results. So why not just learn what I have to show you, what everybody's been having to show them. But no one listens. It's all good. There you go, Sam. It's only been 2 years. I'll follow you. Here, I'll give you a link too. Man, that must have been. I know. I mean, he can roll around in his money like Demi Moore on a bed, but if it was just for Rumble, he would probably have killed himself. Oh, I got 2 of these open now. All right, guys. You know what to do. YouTube channel for Wisdom Fitness is right here. This is your the integrity test. I should have used a different word. The test is, if you say, "Oh, thanks, great job, good, wonderful," and all I do is say, "Hey, can you do something that doesn't cost you anything and just follow the Wisdom Fitness channel?" Fuck that. Then you're a dick. But if you do follow, then great. YouTube channel's right there. The Twitter's right underneath it for Wisdom Fitness AZ, which is Fitwit. All right. Paradas for 15% off expires soon. That's SemperFriLLC.com. And then the Ballbusters Twitter is the Christos Cast that you just saw me looking at earlier. Patreon is Christos Cast because, again, remember, I get kicked out of things and names get blacklisted, so I can't reuse those names again. So Ballbusters has been blacklisted off of fucking everything. Join Dr. Glidden's membership site here. You can use Ballbusters or the word Fitwit. No caps, no spaces for 25% off. And make Dr. Glidden your doctor, damn it. Use code BB5 here for your 90 essential nutrients. And make sure you get your minerals. Boom. Okay? Whole food multivitamin. Before you start anything, the core foundation of every goddamn thing that you do, I don't care if you're going to paint a goddamn painting on a canvas or if you're going to stroke one off in the bathtub, the first thing that you do is you take your 90 essential nutrients every day. All right? Whatever your task at hand is going to be. Whole food multivitamin. Alaskan cod liver oil. Fulvic-Humic blend. This is super important. That $50.83 is a 3-month supply, not a 1-month supply. It's 3 months and 10 days. Get one and take 1/8 of a teaspoon a day, at the very least. I know that's the max dose. That's not the maximum dose, but that's the recommended that you build yourself up to. But if you're doing a lot of exercise or doing a lot of, like what I did today, out in the sweltering heat for a long period of time, you're probably going to want a little bit more because you're going to be burning through it all. If you're doing a lot of excessive exercise, the minerals are going to be worked through more. If you're on PEDs, if you're on TRT or an HRT or any other TTTs or whatever, make sure you take a little bit more, or at least build yourself up to taking a little bit more. But everybody else who has a normal workflow, I guess you could say, for your body's demands, 1/8 of a teaspoon. And then the IP6 Supreme with inositol, which is dun, 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 dun. That's the whole food multivitamin. Then you have core copper, which I highly recommend adding. And I would even go so far as to say the pure collagen would be a good idea too. But those are not part of the 90 essential nutrients. The core copper is going to be satisfied for your daily allowance level, at least, by the whole food multivitamin. But taking a little extra with the collagen might actually make skin look a little better. The elastin in your body will help prevent your arteries from bursting, aneurysms from blowing out like the weak part in a balloon, and your intestinal lining from splitting open like an alien and the alien popping out, so you don't get like massive hernias and shit. So you might want that stuff. I'm just saying. Maybe you don't. Maybe all those things sound good to you. Maybe like, you know how like when you blow a hose on your vehicle and it just sprays radiator fluid everywhere or whatever the fuck else. It's like, that's like that happening inside you is a bigger deal. You can always get a new vehicle. And so I had a situation where that happened because the little piece of plastic thing that stuck out of the radiator, I guess, cracked. And it wasn't even the hose that went. It was just the thing just split. I don't know how that happened. And there's a nice, beautiful Volvo that I had, a Volvo wagon, like a 1985 Volvo wagon, but it was fucking like mint. And I had no shoulder. There was no shoulder on the road, so I couldn't pull over. So I had to drive it with it over, and it was destroyed. I couldn't. There was no place to go. There was no place to go when it happened. fuck you. Saw a little bit of drip, and I was like, I don't know what that is. Looks maybe it's a host thing. I'll take care of it later. So to take care of it sooner than later. You know what? You know what? You know why? Because money. Because it's always that thing. That was before we were like just started my farmers market days. I didn't even know Rebecca yet. Maybe I did. Maybe Elijah was in the car with me. We were on our way to a farmer's market. So we hadn't gotten our store yet. That's what it was. But it's always not having enough of that bullshit prevents you from doing the things that you need to do just for maintenance issues. My van could be fixed. It's going to get worse, and it's probably going to get unbelievably impossible to fucking fix at some point because of motherfucking not having the money I need to fix it at the moment. Things have already compounded. Now the freaking misfires are so bad that I get weaknesses and the speed goes down in between gears. It's like, what the fuck am I gonna do? I can't fix it. Irva says, eat healthy, real food, get your minerals and vitamins, get sun, lift heavy. Oh yeah, and use code BB5. Look at me. Look, use code BB5 at checkout. Do it. You need to use that code to get your discount. Get sun, lift heavy, and get cardio. Great sleep and no stress. There you go. Just sex. There's natty testosterone maxing right there. Exactly. Nutrients, God, hot sauce. Love it. Nice. Maybe that'll be the motto for our little roundtable cult. Nutrients, God, hot sauce, and this. We gotta throw the sun in there, right? It's kind of a symbol of our people, and then maybe Hail Ralda or something like that from the oral in the book. Motorboat and voluptuous perky doubles. Oh yeah, of course. All right, I think we're good, guys. Have a good night. Thank you very much, and I'll see you tomorrow, which is today. I'll see you today.